Hello there, beautiful women. Today I have a interview that is a little bit different than I usually bring on the episode. This particular episode isn't necessarily specific to podcasting itself, but does revolve around building your business and can lead to some things that I have seen in the industry as a whole, whether or not you're a women entrepreneur in the spiritual space, or whether or not you're just a podcaster and you're finding that maybe clients are or family are taking over and you're not able to do some of the things that you are hoping to do, wanting to do, thinking you should do. So, I am speaking today to Jen Anderson, a boundaries specialist, and we're going to kind of dive deep on a little bit more about what it is to have boundaries within your business. Now, when you think of this, also think of this with the podcasting hat on and realize that sometimes those boundaries are also for your guests and or for your work so that you can bring alignment to your podcast, to your business, to your family life, and to yourself. So I hope you enjoy this conversation and let me know if you had any feelings that came up about this particular episode. You can reach me at kim@kpcreativemedia.com. Hello there, beautiful women. This is Kim Parkinson with Podcasting for Your Spiritual Business. And today I have on a boundaries expert. I am introducing to the show Jen Anderson. She's a belief and boundaries specialist, author, podcaster, and accountability coach who helps women stop people pleasing, release guilt, and reclaim self-trust. She's the co-host of Embrace Your Value podcast, where real conversations about worth, boundaries, and personal growth take center stage. Through her signature approach, belief plus boundaries equals bliss, Jen helps women untangle the stories that keep them stuck and build lives that feel aligned, grounded, and sustainable. She is the author of Give Your Yes a Bestie Named No and the founder of Thankful Hearts Coaching, supporting women through coaching, community, and accountability-focused programs designed for real life. Welcome to the show, Jen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kim. I'm excited. This is so fun. I love being on different podcasts.
Yes, yes. This is the first time I've had somebody on talking specifically about boundaries and specifically about boundaries in business and life and a boundary specialist. Hello, what do you consider a boundary specialist to be? I'd love to hear that.
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not even sure I've ever really considered it other than everybody started calling me the Queen of Boundaries. And I was like, well, I think Melissa Urban actually has that title. Or Urban. I don't know how I don't know how she says that, her last name. Maybe it's Melissa Urban.
Okay.
Melissa Urban, but she has the Book of Boundaries, which is incredible. And I did a book study with some of my clients on that, and it was really great. And I mean, I learned even more. But really, that's where the specialist comes in, right? Like that's what I focus on is the boundaries, the limiting beliefs, shifting those and setting those boundaries that really empower our new beliefs. That's the goal because we all want to find that bliss.
Yeah.
We all want that peace in our lives.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what bliss is. It's that peace. I could call it peace, but then it wouldn't be a B word and it wouldn't go with beliefs plus boundaries equals bliss.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
Yes.
So what does that really look like in a woman's life? What does beliefs plus boundaries equal bliss look like?
It looks like the woman who has the story in her mind and it's keeping her stuck. She just has the same story running on repeat and it just keeps her stuck. And this is typically a story that happened when she was a kid. So I can tell you mine. Mine was a story around feeling inadequate. Mm-hmm. I had a best friend when I was little. Her mom was my babysitter. Now, we had a lot of really good times too, but unfortunately, as humans, we always remember the traumatizing things, right?
Of course. Yep.
Why we
Always.
all have trauma in our lives.
Mhm.
So in my version of the story, and I'm not even connected to her anymore, so she doesn't really get to say her version, which someday maybe we'll be connected again and we can talk it out. But there was a lot of time and effort spent telling me that I wasn't smart enough because I didn't go to the same school as her, that I wasn't
Mhm.
learning the right things, that because I was her best friend, certain things couldn't, like her mom had a bunch of kids that she babysat. And so she would have these coloring contests or these little contests. And it was always like, well, you can't win because you're my best friend. And when you're
Aw.
saying that to somebody who's 6, 7, 8, and you're like, that's kind of devastating. And
Yeah.
I really believed her hook, line, and sinker that I wasn't as good as she was. And I
Mhm.
would never be as good as other people. And so I spent 30 some years with this story. Now, it didn't hold me back from everything, of course. But when I would start to feel inadequate, I would picture her in her basement with some of the other kids. It was like one specific day and time.
Mhm.
And that would pop into my mind. And one day I just finally challenged it. I was like, what is this story? Why does someone who I really haven't talked to since I was 16 still come into my mind?
Yeah.
Why does she live there? And I really wasn't in this space at that time. I was just kind of getting into the whole personal growth thing. It was 2013, 2014, somewhere in there. I had gone back to college to get my degree because I didn't get my degree out of high school. I didn't think I was good enough. And so I sabotaged everything I could do to get myself basically thrown out of school. I did that.
Mhm.
And, my poor parents. And, I did everything I could to just sabotage myself all the time. And so when this story came up and I was going back to school and I was doing well with it, I just started challenging it and I started digging into why and I started writing it out. And
Mhm.
here's the thing, if you're listening to this and you're like, "Well, I don't know how to write out my story. I don't know that it's all true." It doesn't matter. It's your perception of your story.
Yeah.
So I wrote it out probably 15 different ways because different things would come to me at different times. Were they all true? Probably not, but it's what I perceived in that moment. It's
Mhm.
what I made it mean. And
Yeah.
that's where this beliefs plus boundaries equals bliss because we change the meaning of those beliefs. We make new beliefs that serve you now. And then we figure out where the boundaries are being pushed that really need to be set and honored. And those boundaries aren't about keeping people at bay. Oh my gosh, I have to shut everybody out. I have to lock myself in this inner bubble wrap and not talk to anybody. That's not what a boundary is. A boundary is what you will accept from another person,
Mhm.
it's what you will tolerate. So I always tell people if you don't know your core values, you can't set a boundary
True. Yeah.
because your core values are what determine where your boundaries need to be.
Mm.
So we go through all that process, like figuring that out. And then once you have that, you have the new belief that serves you. So for me, it's I can do hard things.
Yeah.
I can do the work to do them. And it's okay. It's okay if I fall flat on my face. I'm not stupid. Like I had to really learn that in my mid 30s. I was like, I'm not stupid, people. But I was telling myself I was stupid
Okay.
because I believed her. And it's not her fault. I have forgiven her. I have forgiven me. Like I had to forgive myself for believing it. And that's once we get there, that's where we find our bliss.
Yeah.
That's where you find your true authentic self. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect. It doesn't mean every day is sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. It means that you get to live in your peace. You get to live authentically as you, and other people don't get to have a say in that. If they don't like you, you're going to survive and they're going to survive. And it's okay. They don't
Yeah.
have to like you. I actually get excited now when people are like, yeah, you're not really for me. And I'm like, yes, because if I'm for everyone, I'm not doing my job. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to be for everyone. But
Mhm.
for those people that I am for, I love on them like no other.
Yeah, I totally feel that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't
That's
know
a
if that
big
really answered
yes.
your question, but that's really what we do in my programs.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I actually did some personal work last year regarding some money wounds that I had. So similar.
Yes.
But I had to write out my story too. And I
Yes.
was actually shocked when I did that this story went back to when I had a paper route when I was a little girl and a woman, and I was collecting money from her. And she made me feel like so small for 20 cents. But how dare somebody at that, she was a woman and I was like preteen and she was yelling at me over 20 cents. And I can remember, I mean, it definitely happened. It was not a preconceived.
Yeah,
I'm sure she thought it was no big deal, but I did. And
of
that was
course.
huge for me. And then when I found it, when I figured out that memory, that core memory, it just opens up a lot of different, like, oh my, this is like years of like building upon that 20 cents.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so let me clarify because you brought that up. When I say perceived memory, it's really the details. So
Okay.
I think for me, for my story, not all the details are exactly correct, but the memory itself, yes. Because one of the things I learned in psychology is that our brain, number one, doesn't always remember things correctly. So,
Sure.
and, you and I could witness the same accident but from different angles, and we're going to see things differently.
Sure.
And so that's where the whole perceived thing comes in, because I've had a lot of women really get stuck on, well, if I'm not saying it 100% correctly, then I'm not being fair to that person.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but you've given that person so much power for so long. Now it's time to just be fair to you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
almost like you've been giving your power away for so long. It's now time to take that back. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And that's one of the ways you can do it is just write out whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be a visual image that you see. It might be just a memory that pops up or a word, or you might hear your mom's voice.
Mhm.
Like it might just be a voice. But as soon as you notice it, start writing if you can.
Yeah.
Because the sooner you do it in the moment, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, then you can really work through it. Your
Mhm.
brain's an amazing machine.
Oh,
You
it
write
is.
something out and it just keeps thinking about it in the background. It's like data computing in the
Yes.
background,
Yes.
fixing the neurons together, however that is. You probably
Yes.
know a little bit more than I do, but definitely I know that it just connects
It
everything
does.
together. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And those neural pathways, they never really go away. I always
Mm.
think of them, if you live on a dirt road, I was raised on a dirt road. And so we would get ruts in the road and
Sure.
they would fill them with gravel. But then a little while later, the ruts would come back. Well, it's the same thing in your brain. So
Yeah.
if you've experienced, this is why it's so easy to fall back into old habits because they're still there.
Yeah.
You have to really be intentional with changing the direction of your neural pathways and what they're going to look like. So I don't want to get into all the science. Plus, I get bored with all that. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't even factor. It
Yeah.
does factor. It absolutely factors. But it's a whole thing. So yeah, your brain is incredible. And
Yeah.
let it do
All
its
right.
work. It's great. Yeah.
Why do you think that women have such a guilt about boundaries? Like I'm like, oh, it's okay, I'll do it.
That is a great story. I mean, that is a great question because that's funny. I just did all my social media marketing for March. We talked a lot about guilt. So, really, the reason the guilt comes up is because it's different.
Mm,
'Cause you're
okay.
doing something new. So, your nervous system goes, wait, we haven't done this. Because again, your brain is really only meant to keep you alive, right?
Hmm.
Like that's its sole purpose. So when you do something new, it sends a trigger to your nervous system and goes, wait, we don't know if this is good. We don't know if we can keep it alive.
Yeah.
So your nervous system gets out of whack. So I always tell women this is a great time to just slow down, stop with the judgment, stop with the criticism, take a breath, don't cave, take a deep breath, and then ask yourself, is there any reason like that am I setting this boundary truly? So like if you're saying I can't go to something, and I don't care what your reason is, your reason could be I want to lay on the couch and watch Netflix all night. That's
Nothing wrong
fine.
with that.
That is your reason.
Yep.
But are you doing it in a kind, clear, compassionate way where you're being kind to that person? Even if you have to be a little firm, you're still being kind. And if you're doing it that way, then you just have to let your nervous system catch up. And so
Mm.
I recommend just giving yourself some time, just holding strong, saying, nope, I said no, I'm good. Thank you anyway. And they'll push back. They'll be like, but you've always done it for me in the past.
Yeah.
But we've always been this way. Or can't you just do it this once? I had that
Yeah.
happen in my business not too long ago where it was like, well, can't you just look at it? And I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
That's not what we agreed to. And I am a boundary specialist. I am not, I I would have done that in the past. I would have been like, sure, and I would give it everything away, and I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't help, and it doesn't mean I don't want to help, but I don't do that. So yes, that's your nervous system reacting, and it's really your brain going, wait, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And then once you do it a couple times, your brain goes, oh, we didn't die the last time. So we don't have to overreact this time.
Yeah.
And every time it gets easier and easier. Now, the other thing that brings guilt up is if you're literally doing something that you maybe shouldn't do.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So, if you have, and I don't even know, I don't have a great example for setting a boundary meanly other than like yelling at someone or just being really, you go back and you apologize for that thing that you did. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
the boundary was bad, just maybe means your approach needs to be tightened up.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My current boundary would be no, you don't need that extra piece of chocolate today. Probably not the same thing
But
today,
do
but
you? Well, it could be your self boundary if that's,
yeah.
if that's what you like where you're at and what your goal is. And then I would challenge you to ask yourself, am I saying no out of meanness to myself? Like, am I punishing myself?
Mm.
Or am I really doing it to hit the target that I want to hit?
Yeah. Yeah. Of
And
course.
that's a great example though of the two ways that guilt shows up. So if you're doing it for the target, you're doing something new.
Mm.
And
True.
and you don't, you've not done that. If you're doing it to punish yourself though, then maybe that's not the right way. And so you're feeling guilty because you're being mean to yourself.
Yeah.
A perfect example.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
My other issue that I seem to have a lot is people pleasing. I
Yeah.
find there to be really difficult between being able to differentiate between people pleasing and compassion. Do you have any tips for me on this? Because I feel
Yeah.
like it falls into that boundary, right? So people
Yes.
push, I say, oh, okay, I'm gonna, I feel compassion for this person, and then I end up people pleasing, and then they scope creep, and then I'm like, oh, I can't stand it anymore. Yeah,
So, yes. So the thing with boundaries is they're never a brick wall.
yeah,
They're meant to be flexible. So you get to decide if you want to bend a little at times and give into a boundary for compassion's sake, or if you need to stand up and stand firm. Like you get to decide that. So and you just told me before we started that you're a projector. So
yes,
what little bit I know about human design, I have a bestie that's a human design expert. And so I learn a lot. She loves to teach me and I love to absorb it.
Love it.
So what I know about projectors is they're supposed to wait for the invitation.
Sure. Hmm.
So in your instance, what I would say is when somebody's pushing back on a boundary, I would tell you to give it 24 hours.
Oh,
Or
okay.
wait, at least wait some time frame, an appropriate amount, and really give yourself the time to sit in it and decide, is that really going to be beneficial for me?
Mm,
So something I do with a lot of women is we will just come up with, I call them back pocket scripts, like
love
things you
it.
would have in your back pocket that you could just pull out. They're not really, it's metaphorical. They're not really there. But so something you could say, like if you had a specific scenario, we could come up with a script where you could say, oh, I need to check with my spouse,
Mhm.
or I need to see if that really works for us. And I will get back to you at this date and time. Because that gives you the time to really fill into it. It's not a no,
Mhm.
but it's also not a yes. And then you have time as the projector in you to just really sit on it and go, is this what I want?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
this really suit me and my family? Because it may affect the family for anybody else that's listening. Like it might be something where you're setting the boundary for your kids. And that might feel easier, but sometimes you got to do it for you to set it for the kids too. Like there's scenarios in there. So it really can be scenario specific. And that's a lot of we spend a lot of time working on specifics and what does that look like? And so I do some group coaching, but each person gets their own individualized. When they show up for the calls, they get the opportunity to have their own individualized stuff answered.
Nice.
And
Nice.
that's the way I always want to do group. Like my groups are never very big because they have to be small so that everybody gets their own attention.
You need that. Absolutely. I feel like because everybody's story is so different, everybody's got some kind of a different hang up, right? And I don't mean it to be a negative, the hang up, but
No,
whatever
yeah.
their boundary is that is being taken advantage of, they have this, and it's not the same as the next person, for
No,
sure.
we're not a one size fits all world.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, because if we were, we'd be really boring and we wouldn't need each other. And what would be the point?
But
It's the way I kind of look at it. Yeah.
I love that you have a framework though for this process, even though it could be about shame, it could be about self-worth, it could be about self-trust, it could be about all these different pieces of boundaries that maybe we're giving ourselves away. And we talked before, we're both Gen X, so I feel like this is a very Gen X thing too. I don't know.
I
I
think
feel
it
like the
might be.
millennials are a little bit easier on themselves. I don't know. A little bit
I
more.
don't
I don't
know.
know.
I've met some young women that I'm like, maybe it's the group below the millennials.
Yeah.
Um,
The alpha,
but
no, Gen
the Gen
Z,
Z,
right?
Gen
Yeah,
Z,
yeah.
I
That's what my
cannot
kids
keep it all
are.
straight. I feel like
I
every
know.
3 years there's a new group coming out, and I'm like, why so soon? Wasn't ours really big? Didn't ours
Actually,
take
I think ours
forever?
was actually not that big, right? I feel like ours was only like 15 years, 65 to 80 or something like that,
80?
I
Yeah,
think.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But the millennials are huge. So the
Is
millennials go
it?
from like
Mm,
80 until like, I don't know, late 90s. Oh, maybe that is still
mm,
15 years. Oh, maybe.
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know. I just feel like they just keep popping up, and I'm like, what's going on? I can't keep track. I'm seriously though. I am getting older, and I know that it's just that thing, right? That when we get older, everybody looks younger, and
yeah.
I can't tell ages apart anymore. I look at people and I go, "There's no way,"
Yeah.
and yeah,
Agree.
it's a thing.
I agree. I also think that most of us Gen Xers, though, for some reason, maybe it was the water out of the hose, we look amazing.
Right? What it is. I think
The
it's just because we
preservatives in
started
the
raising
hose water.
ourselves at 8, but
Oh, that too. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Not only
Yes.
did I raise myself at 8, but then my mother had another family and I raised them too.
Oh goodness. Yeah, I didn't have to deal with that, thankfully. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, why do you think that people are reacting so strongly when women do set boundaries? I know that this is, I mentioned, I just turned 50, and I
Mm.
feel like this is where I'm like, finally, like, no, I'm putting my stake in the ground and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. And my family is like, oh, what's going on?
Because
And
again, like your nervous system, they're not used to it.
yeah,
And of course they're reacting because they're assuming you're going to, oh, mom's going to come around. She's going to think about it. But we're not. We have gotten to this point that we have to do this and we have to do this now.
yeah,
Um, and so I think that's a lot of it is just it doesn't matter what age you are when you decide you're gonna, set your boundaries and really honor yourself. Because that's what you're doing. You're honoring yourself.
hmm,
This is us prioritizing us.
yep,
It's us not allowing everyone else to take every little piece of us. If we were puzzles, there would be like four pieces left of each of us. And that's where we would be
yeah,
because everybody takes so much.
yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
We now get to start finding those pieces and putting them back into place and really rebuilding ourselves.
Mhm.
Because I think what also happens in midlife is that now we're starting to have grandchildren, niece, like I have adult nieces who have kids, so I have great niece and nephews, and I want to be better for them because I didn't know better when I was there for my nieces because I didn't have kids of my own, but I didn't know better when I was there for my nieces, but I know better for their kids.
Yeah.
And I can be so much better. Like one of my nieces has my goddaughter and she's going to be 5 in May,
Oh,
and like that kid is going to grow up knowing boundaries. That kid is going to grow up knowing her worth.
love
She's
it.
going to know all of it because
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure of it. And her mom is making sure of it.
Yeah.
Like
It's
her
so
mom is
important.
following in my footsteps. And I love that.
So important for the next
Yes.
generation. I have two sisters, and one sister I'm really close with, my niece, and I am always teaching her like, no, no, don't take that. We're not doing that. This is not how it works. It might
Yeah.
have been how I was raised. It might have been how I've done it in the past, but now I'm not.
Yeah.
And I have two adult sons, and my husband and I are really teaching them right now. We're teaching them a lot about, you know, the my boundaries, one, and perimenopause, like because their wives will go through it someday. So,
Yes.
and it was not talked about. When
Yes.
I called my
No.
mom and said, "Hey, can you tell me about menopause?" She was like, "I don't know, I was 49, 50."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. That was the conversation. I was
Yeah.
like,
I
I
think
don't
my mom
know.
went through menopause from like 38 to about 60 something because they didn't really know perimenopause back then.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
one. And number two, nobody really diagnosed it. And so she was just miserable for all those years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And seriously miserable. Like we have now talked about it as adults, and I had no idea. I mean,
Hmm.
I just thought my mom was mean and evil. And, I remember like people saying about my dad, oh, your dad's such a saint because he puts up with your mom. And in retrospect, I'm like, oh man, my mom, she got the shaft. Like she was going through all this stuff and
Oh,
she was doing all this stuff behind the scenes that none of us had any clue about to help
mm,
my dad with things. And she was the saint. I mean, she is the saint. She's still alive. My dad is now, bless his heart. And my dad was a great guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing my father.
of course.
But I think about those things because I heard that more than once from people.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, but if they only knew, but I didn't know back then.
Sure. Wasn't spoken about. Yeah. Yeah.
No, no. And she wasn't going to tell me all that anyway.
Hmm.
Like she wasn't going to tell me why she was so miserable and what was bothering her. And I wish she would have. I mean, I'm glad she's confided in me as an adult. It's really helped me.
Mm.
So that's the other thing. If you still have parents around, or if you're younger and you're listening to this, talk to your parents.
Yeah.
Find out from your mom what really went on in her body.
Yeah.
Because part
So
of this is
important.
just our bodies. Like we're now ready. We're dealing with all these aches and pains in our 50s. And now we're ready to stop putting up with the other garbage because we got to put up with this garbage.
Yeah, so true. So true. Yeah,
So,
I feel like that and the social media nowadays makes it so much easier to talk about it, to have it out in the open, to discuss it and to make sure that women are really respecting their boundaries, not just emotionally, but physically. Physically for sure, but physically as in the changes of her life physically. And making sure that people around them know, because I feel like that's super important. That's part of, like, you need to be seen. This isn't something that in the closet anymore that we're dealing with. This is something out in the open. So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So for women that are building their businesses and using their voice publicly, how do strong boundaries actually support her visibility instead of limiting it?
Well, boundaries, I would tell you boundaries will never limit your visibility because they're never meant to push people away.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're setting really strong, empowering boundaries and using your voice and telling people in a kind, calm, clear way what you want and what you're looking for, you're going to attract so much.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be so much better than you ever imagined because you're doing it in a correct way. People really read and feel energy
Oh, definitely.
even
Yeah.
without realizing it. They do. Like a lot
Mhm.
of women, a lot of women do, and men do too. But there are a lot of women that do, and a lot of times we don't realize that we can do that. I know I didn't know that I never understood why I could walk into a room and instantly feel ick.
Yep.
Never. I didn't understand that for a long time. And then when I finally, got into this industry and started learning all of that, I was like, oh, that's what that is. And
Mhm.
so when you're not being authentic, people know. And so when you're building this business, be authentic, set the boundaries that you need and do it your way.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it your way, people know and they gravitate away. So if you're noticing that, it's time to question, what do I need? What
Mhm.
what more of me needs to come out versus what more of what somebody's maybe telling me. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have coaches and mentors and guides because we all need them. I have them. We all need them. But there are times you have to sometimes stand up and go, but I also need to put this part of me in here.
Yeah.
You have to do it this way because it's for me.
Yeah. Being that true authentic self, being that true boundaries person, you're calling in those super fans, right?
Yeah.
Those are who you're really calling in. You
Yeah.
don't want those other people that aren't going to align with you anyway.
No.
So
No.
it makes it too hard. It really makes business too hard when they're not aligned and you have to really work to kind of get to that middle ground. That makes it so difficult. It's so much easier if you have that boundary, you have that authenticity, you have that core values as you mentioned earlier, and you really are just like, I'm going to do this my way, and then those people will flock to you because they're the right person. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. All right. I know we're just about time, and I want to respect your time, respect your boundaries here. So, could you tell us a little bit about your offers, your program, anything like that you'd like the audience to know about?
Yeah. So if you are building a business or you are in the middle of a business, or even if you're not, this might be something that interests you. But for those that are building a business, it would be a great another tool for you to
Mhm.
have in your toolkit. So I have a program called Empowered and Aligned. which is where we take that course. We work on the limiting beliefs, we set the healthy boundaries, we find the true bliss. And when we finish that, then we spend a few months writing a book together. We do a book collab. And so that's the authorship experience that goes with it. So it's a whole like 7-month program. So it seems huge because it is weekly coaching that you get every month or every week. But when you get done, we're going to have a book together. And then
Love
you have
that.
this book. Yes, I have done 3 different book collabs and I've loved each one of them so much. And so this is really where I'm kind of focusing most of my energy. I do have a couple of communities on the school platform that I nurture and do also. But right now I'm really doing interviews for the authorship experience. So if you want to be one of the interviews, that is a great way to come into it because you're just going to tell me your story and we're just going to have a little conversation. And then it goes on the Extraordinary Voices platform, on the school platform. And then that's where they kind of go. So that's probably my core program, though, is the Empowered and Aligned. And then I put the authorship experience with it. And that's really where you're going to make the most. Everything else is little by little, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to take giant, big steps, but Empowered and Aligned is really transformational. You're going to get the most transformation in the shortest amount of time because you really do hit everything all at once.
Okay.
So,
Great.
yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. And I would be remiss if I did not ask you a little bit more about your podcast. So tell me about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I co-host a podcast with a trauma therapist named Kristen Burris. And she lives in a different city than me. We met online
Oh,
and we
fun.
started talking. And we literally had a coffee chat and we started talking. And she said I had done a solo podcast for a while. And whole thing, when my dad got sick, it kind of fell to the back burner and I never picked it
Mhm.
back up. It just never felt right. So I just let it go. But she said, I want to do a podcast with somebody. I've always wanted to. And I said, well, I'll do one with you. And so we started the podcast, Embrace Your Value. And she works with both men and women. I do mostly work with women, but sometimes I have some men that will come in. But it's all about this, just knowing your value, knowing your worth. She talks a lot about boundaries as well. And so it's really funny because she'll be like, well, you talk about boundaries. And I'm like, yeah, but you talk about boundaries. But we look at everything from a spectrum of coaching meets therapy.
Nice.
And just like she and I think a lot alike, she has different things she has to follow and do, but really for the most part, we a lot of times say and do the same things with our clients. So it's just a conversation. We do occasionally have guests on. So Kim, if you ever want to be a guest, you let me
Oh,
know.
thank you. Yeah.
Talk about that. But most of the time, it's just her and I just chatting. We just come up with topics. And so if you go and listen to the podcast and you're like, hey, I want to know more about this topic, or I want to talk about this topic, please leave us notes because we're always looking for more ideas. I feel
Awesome.
like we have driven the people pleasing thing home and we've beat it to death. So we need a few more like topics, but we've been doing it a little over a year.
Nice.
And we're not perfect. We just do our thing and we put it out there. Like
Yeah.
we do very little editing and we just put it out there.
I love that. Anytime women are doing and speaking their voice and getting their wisdom out to the world, I am 100% for that, as you can imagine. So, yes, 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 and yes. So, all the way around. Awesome. All right. Any other last minutes that you want to mention? I'm going to put all of your links in the show notes and I will grab a link from you for your program and, of course, into your podcast as well. So they can just jump right on over and start listening because why not?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, I mean most everything is found on my webpage too, on my website. Like there's the link to my book on my website. The podcast is actually on my website. The courses are all on my website, the programs. So, but I can definitely send you all the extra links. No, this is just I just want to express my gratitude because this has been a lot of fun And I always love getting to talk about boundaries and limiting beliefs. And it's really what fuels me and lights me up. And just having, whether it's coaching, whether it's just having the conversations, I love them all. So if any of your listeners are listening and they're like, oh, but I don't know, just find me in the DMs and just send me a message. I love talking about it. So let's start the conversation. And that's all it takes. Like,
Love that.
it doesn't
Love
have to
that.
be this, you pay me all this money. Like, yeah, I have to get paid, but we can start a conversation. It's okay. It can start easy and be easy because that's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah. That energetic exchange at first, making it nice and easy into the next realm, whatever that might look like. And everybody's individual too. So it
Yeah.
begs questions. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Jen. This has been quite the pleasure. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Podcasting for Spiritual Women. If you would like more strategy and tips and some tricks on how to make your podcast better, I recommend that you join my newsletter list. You can find that at kpcreativemedia.com/newsletter. Until next time.